Welcome to another episode of the Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcasts. I am one of your hosts and your commissioner. My name is Frankie, and sitting across the internet from me is Cam. Cam, how is it going?
It's not bad, Nice chill Wednesday. Had some good waivers. How are you?
I'm doing good. I won this week, and you did not, unfortunately, as we'll get to. You got that curse of scoring the second most points in a week and still losing. Couldn't have felt good, huh?
Yeah, I mean, of all teams to do that too, I feel like Tyler's earned it, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Alrighty, so thank you all once again for joining us for another episode. We're going to start off with some housekeeping, go into our waiver discussion, weekly rewind. For our new segment today, we're going to do a teams draft. We're going to be drafting you guys, your teams, and we'll tell you why in a little bit. Then we will be doing going over matchup of the week, potentially a try-hard game, and our usual pick 'em. Talk about all the matches from this week as we continue to push forward towards the fantasy playoffs, and then we will end with a very light mailbag this time around, but it'll be a good one, I promise. How's it sound to you, Cam?
I'm excited. Week 11's coming up. Should be good.
Yeah. Alrighty. So we will start off with a little bit of housekeeping. As decided, I just wanted to make this super clear that for the way we're going to, I talked about this last week, but the way we're going to decide division winner, if there is a tie record-wise, is it will be head-to-head versus your division. So everyone better keep trying to win these next 2 weeks. Very crucial for your division chances, as all the divisions are up for grabs still. And along with that, if there are ties record-wise for wildcard spots, we will do the traditional points for whoever has the highest points for will win out those wildcard spots. Just wanted to make that super clear for all you guys, just in case there are any questions. And so let's go right into our waiver discussion. Waivers ran a little bit ago, earlier this morning. And some takeaways right up top here. We see the first person taken, Rashard Penny, 5 bids. Tyler gets him for $40, barely outbidding Logan by 38. That's a big one, especially considering it's Logan, as we'll get to later, has some buy issues this week, so that could be a very big loss for him. And then continuing on the train here with Tyler, spends $30 on the Arizona Cardinals defense, another hotly bid item that Tyler comes away with, spending $70 of fab this week, quite a bit. But we're at that time of the season where you need to lock down your players that you need. And then the only other big takeaway from me is that Dylan uncontestedly spends $30 on Hooper, dealing with Kittle's buy. What were your takeaways from this waiver week, Cam?
I'm getting kind of proud of the league for everyone finally learning to spend up some money, because getting to the end there and everyone's still got a decent amount of money left. Like Tyler, even after spending his $70, has 58 left. And Dylan dropping $30, even though after that he still has $133 left. I get the idea that he wants to lock up his guy, but I don't know if anyone really wanted Austin Hooper that bad.
Yeah, I considered it, but I was never going to pay $30, so yeah. Alrighty. Not too any other big things, just some kickers. Josh Reynolds for $2. That could be an underrated pickup for Jake as well. And then, across the fantasy landscape, in terms of like analysts and experts, Anthony Miller was a hot topic. A lot of people buying into his production. I'm the only one who bid, and I bid $0 and got him. So yeah, I don't particularly believe in him either. But when you have Allen Robinson on your team, you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you got Allen Robinson, Tariq Cohen, and Anthony Miller now. Wow.
I have the 3 best offensive targets for the Bears, and it's not Jordan Howard, and that's just the truth.
Suck it.
Alrighty. Let's get into our weekly rewind here, and we will start off with our matchup of the week, one that we called out as being a very much potential upset, and one to watch for sure. Dylan versus Justin. Justin ends Dylan's reign of terror, stopping his win streak at 9, which I, noted the other night in our sleeper chat that I still have the league-wide record for longest win streak in one single season at 10. So if nothing else this season, I might end up last place. That is a very much a possibility, but I will still have that to hold on to. Um, let's talk quickly about Dylan's team. We talked, one of the big reasons why this could be an upset week for Dylan is because the Vikings are on bye, losing Diggs, Sealand, and Dalvin Cook all in one foul swoop. They need to lean on people like Dion Lewis, who had good weeks the last 2 weeks. Didn't do much for him this week. The targets, offensive receiving targets for the Chargers continue to disappoint, as they kind of had this whole season. I know that the Williams brothers have had weeks of flashing, but nothing consistently at all. James Conner has an okay week. He didn't really need to do much. That Steeler game was over in the first quarter. But he did go into the locker room in the fourth quarter for a concussion. That's something to monitor going forward. So those are my takeaways from Dylan's side. And then looking over to Justin's side, interesting thing to know for Christian McCaffrey is that Christian McCaffrey had the single best fantasy day from a player on the Carolina Panthers ever, who isn't a quarterback. Running back, tight end, or wide receiver. Very impressive. That's the kind of stuff you need to take down one of the better teams in the league. And then my only other big takeaways here, Odell Beckham Jr. has another big game of only 4 receptions, 11 targets. We love to see that hyper targeting from Eli. He's picking up a bit of the slack from T.Y. Hilton. I watched a bit of that Jacksonville Colts game. Was just a weird game overall. 7 targets for Hill with only 3 receptions. You want to see a lot more he got decent yardage, but you want to see a bit more from him as we continue going forward. My only big takeaway from this whole thing is that Justin, we might have talked about him, being, someone as a favorite in maybe the consolation bracket, but Justin is not dead yet, and this win proves to me at least that he is very much a contender in the playoffs going forward.
Yeah, Dylan finally showing he's mortal in this game, and Justin taking advantage of that. Proud of him for that. But one thing I've noticed here is Justin has to have the weirdest bench composition in the entire league. He has 2 quarterbacks on his bench, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, a kicker, and an extra defense. He's got depth in all the wrong places.
Yeah, I did not notice that he had 3 quarterbacks on his roster. That's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, but Dylan, he's got to look to rebound from that for this next week, as we're going to talk about later.
Moving on now quickly to Levi versus Greg. Levi securing another good win. It was interesting. I wrote up a bit of my notes for this game on Monday before the Monday night game with the 49ers and the Giants, and I wrote for Levi. I said, Levi, barely survives this week on the Texans bye, and then Matt Breida went for 26.7 points, so it's not even a relevant note anymore. It's very impressive. And then, big takeaways from Levi's side is that Ingram has a really great week, something we haven't seen since week 5 when he came back. He hopes to continue to see that usage going forward. It's a bit turbulent in that backfield, but we'll see how that eventually shakes out. And then my only other big takeaway from Levi's side, besides from the usual producers producing, is that Travis Kelce super underperformed. I know they were playing the Cardinals defense, and that's a pretty good defense, as we've been talking about for most of the season. But Sammy Watkins was out for the entire game, and I don't know, it's just 6 for 7 for 46 is just not exactly what you want to see from Travis Kelce. But I don't think it's necessarily an omen of things going wrong forward. And then looking over to Greg's side, I did watch a good amount of Leonard Fournette's highlights from this week, and I don't know what, because I was just like, when I was watching the game on Red Zone, every time he got the ball, I just felt like he looked bad, like he looked injured the entire time. But he had a really good fantasy game. I don't know. You take what you will from that. As we usually do, we make fun of Greg for starting the wrong quarterback. This week he barely started the right quarterback. Congratulations, Greg, you still lost. And my only other couple of big takeaways is that in the running backs department here is Jalen Richard is being outperformed by Doug Martin. That sucks. And Frank Gore on his bench, it continues to outproduce Kenyon Drake as well as something else to monitor going forward.
Yeah, I mean, 1 week after Levi claiming to us that Travis Kelce could be a first-round pick in next year's draft, he goes up and puts 6.6 points up. Doesn't look good for Levi's, knowledge of the future. I do say so myself. But other than that, Greg, I really wish that he had Leonard Fournette for the whole season because he definitely could have used him because even in a bad game, puts up 25 points. It's rough for him.
Alrighty. Now let's move on here to the next match. We have Logan versus Lassie. Logan continuing his losing streak, and if you look at his team, you can see why. Yeah, rough. I mean, it's really hard to win any week when your quarterback puts up a really bad game, as I've felt that 2 or 3 times this season. 1.8 from Josh McCown. I still am unclear why he thought that was a good start. I don't know. There are a lot of other options, including Marcus Mariota, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, it's rough having to start McGuire or Crow. Because I feel like if anyone, Kenyon is kind of the guy he has to saddle up and play, who comes away with an injury in this game, along with Marvin Jones also came away with an injury. Just not great weeks all around. Larry saw 10 targets this week, which is a lot. What would you like to see? Still only 6 grabs for 50 yards. Byron Leftwich, Steelers legend, he's getting that offense back on track. It's just not quite there yet. And then one interesting stat I wanted to just bring up is that if you add up the points this week of Kenyon Drake, Marvin Jones, and Larry Fitzgerald, they add up to 0.7 of one Allen Robinson. So thank you to Logan and Jake for your trades. Very much appreciated. And then looking over the Lassie side, this is the final time we're going to be doing our Aaron Jones watch, aka the segment where I talk about how right I was and how annoyed I am that Lassie didn't trade him to me. Has a great week, 30 points. Other takeaways here: 10 targets for Amari Cooper. That's what you like to see. Dak playing better and better every week, as we've been noticing. LaShawn McCoy definitely still has it. Has his best performance of the entire year, 24.3 points. Would sure like him this week against me, but you won't have him because of the bye, so sucks to suck. And my only other interesting takeaway here is that something I've been noticing is that when Jarvis Landry gets less targets, the Browns are more likely to win games. I don't know what that says, but he got almost a production this week, and they romped the Falcons. So I'm not sure how much more secure his role is going to be in that offense, especially with the emergence of Duke Johnson. I guess not the emergence of Duke, the emergence of Nick Chubb in the backfield, and then being able to use Duke Johnson as more of the prototypical pass catching back.
Yeah, all I really got from this game is Lassie's been at the bottom of the power rankings for most of the season, but given the division he's in and how his team is performing now, we still can't even count him out of making it into those playoffs and maybe even making a run. Like, he's got some production there.
Yeah, we touched on that last week, and we're going to talk about it this week, and I'm sure the next week as well. That Lassie's very much out of it, putting up one of the better scores this week. Barely top 6. This was a very high scoring week, our second highest scoring week, maybe third highest scoring week of the season, and it's up there for sure. Yeah, third highest of the year. Barely squeaks in to the top 6 there at 124 points. So that tells you all you need to know about this week in scoring. Alrighty. Now let's move on to my match versus JP. Great. It was almost, it wasn't certain, but I think both Jake and I knew this game was kind of over from the point of the Thursday night game with Ben Roethlisberger posting a perfect game quarterback rating wise, 5 touchdowns. Ends up getting me about 35 points. Tariq Cohen, you saved by the touchdown. Not a whole lot going on with that Chicago game offensively wise. Tevin Coleman very much underperformed this week against an exploitable Cleveland defense. Very disappointed in that. I'm not super sure what I'm going to do with him going forward. Juju gets that 75-yard touchdown to kick off the game, and Vance gets that touchdown, which definitely was not a touchdown. I'll fight anyone to the tooth and nail that Jesse James's catch last year against the Patriots was a catch. That Vance McDonald touchdown was not a touchdown. I don't care who you are, but I'll take it. And Yeah, so my and then I ended up taking Danny Amendola off of waivers the morning of because of the uncertainty with Sonny Michel and Allen Robinson's health. He would have been a good start in my flex as it turns out, but my boy Allen Robinson, 6 for 8, 133 yards, 2 touchdowns. Oh my gosh, that's like my favorite. I'm so excited to have him on my team. I'm super excited to have Philip Lindsay back this next week. The league, you're on notice. Just that's all I got to say. 129 points. Um, and then looking over to JP's side, Tom Brady continues his gradual decline, both in real football and in fantasy. He's borderline a startable quarterback last couple weeks. He hasn't scored over 16 points since week 7. Yeah. And then other takeaways from JP's side, had to start one of his last hopes to win against me were Tyler Lockett and Jamal Williams in the later game. Tyler Lockett had a good game, 17 points. Like to see that with a touchdown. Jamal Williams gets 3 carries for 3 yards. Yikes. But not all is lost in his running back department. David Johnson, as I mentioned a bit earlier with that Cardinals offense, is getting back on track. Something I can continue to see producing for the rest of the season. And as I also mentioned earlier, Dak continues to play better and better every single week. Yeah. And only other takeaway here is that Trey Burton, who I was afraid of maybe having a good week this week, who needs Trey Burton when you have Allen Robinson? I mean, come on.
All right. So I have a couple interesting takeaways going on around here. One of them is for you, Frankie. You've scored 125 and 129 points in the last 3 weeks, but those sandwiched a 44.9 point week. If that doesn't describe your team, I don't know what else does. Like, jeez.
I mean, buys and injuries.
Allen Robinson's, right?
Allen Robinson.
And it's just kind of funny that you guys had the defenses that were playing each other, Colts versus Jags, and they both ended up with 0 points. Just like, what's that happening?
I was very annoyed by that, actually. Just like getting to watch the ticker as the Jaguars continue to score and put themselves back in the game. Just continue to watch myself lose points. That's always fun.
And finally, I mean, Jake picked up Dak Prescott for next week on Tom Brady's bye, but given how the Patriots and the Cowboys are playing right now, I'm not sure if that's just going to be a 1-week replacement. Tom Brady has not been looking super hot recently.
Alrighty, let's move on now to our second best matchup of the week, Jake versus Devin, a very close matchup. I look at the score stat sheet here, whatever. I get how the math works out, but I don't know how Jake won this game. Underperformance from Adrian Peterson, as I'll get into that a little bit. Injuries to Cooper Kupp, OJ Howard didn't do anything, Mike Evans didn't do anything. But you get carried off of 36 points, barely eclipsing Ben for the best quarterback of the week, and Mitchell Trubisky. Zeke Elliott does what he does, and 15 points from the Green Bay Packers defense is not hurt either. Just going to go. Yeah, the Adrian Peterson thing, we talked about it a bit last week with the injuries they've had on their offensive line. How I think that's probably a season-long downgrade for Adrian Peterson, especially if you look at the defenses. He's going to be playing some good run defenses for the rest of the season, and even against Tampa Bay, which is, their run defense is better than their pass defense, but still not great. 7.9 points. That's not what you like to see, but he does come away with the win. So we'll look more over to Devin's side now. It's always a hard week when you have if you started the right people on your bench, you could have won. So if you would have started Kerryon Johnson over either of his running backs, he would have won the week. I can't fault him too much because Chicago does have a historically good run defense. So it's kind of a toss up between him and Marlon Mack. And then I'd definitely get starting Jordan Howard against that exploitable Detroit run defense, but just didn't work out this week. Good week from Brandon Cooks. And then, Gurley does his usual thing. And my other huge takeaway is 16 targets for Zach Ertz. 16 for 14 receptions. What? If we're talking about a first-round draft pick next season, we might be looking more to Zach Ertz area than Travis Kelce.
Yeah, you brought up how Devin had a lot of points on his bench, but if we look over to Jake's team too, he also has Mike Davis with 16, Sterling Shepard with 10, and Corey Davis 22 points. It's crazy how many different ways this matchup could have shook out if they just had different start-sit decisions.
Yeah. And then we'll get into our last matchup of the week. We have to talk about your matchup, second highest scorer versus the highest scorer. You really let down this week by Fitzpatrick. 12 points, 400 plus yards, and no touchdowns with a fumble, 2 interceptions, and a loss. Nothing really going for him. Your usual producers did pretty well. A little bit of a down week for Kareem Hunt, but we kind of knew that going in against Arizona. Kamara does well. Tyreek does well. Melvin Gordon does well. The usual. But something to look at maybe is your wide receiver 2, something you've been, trying to find a solution for much of the season. At one point, you thought it was Allen Robinson when you traded for him from Tyler. This week, we decided to go with Adam Humphries, which I, can't blame you for too much. 6.3, 2 receptions off 3 targets. It's not what you're looking for. And then on Tyler's side, as we've been berated and chastised for enough, Nick Chubb has another really good week. Eric Ebron has an amazing week. 26.6 points, which I didn't even realize is only his second best week of the year. Hit a 27-7 bomb earlier, maybe a bit under the radar tight end target this season, at least for me. James White stalled this week, his first actually bad week of the season. Which is come on. It's been so electric. You can't be too upset about that. Julio scores again, seeing what we can see what his real ceiling is when he has the touchdowns to add on top of those yards. Another 20-point week for him. So yeah, just a lot of good all across the board for Tyler, and he needed a lot to go his way to beat you this week.
Yeah, what can you do when you're playing against an Andrew Luck, Eric Ebron stack that puts up 2 passing touchdowns and Ebron gets 1 more rushing touchdown? I did my best, but Tyler, good one.
Yeah. Alrighty, so that was our weekly rewind, and we will go quickly now into our next segment, which we're going to be doing a teams draft. Now, Cam, this was your idea, so would you like to explain how we're going to do this?
Yeah, so basically what I was thinking, a lot of people have heard of Big Brother drafts where you're just trying to pick the players that go far in the game. So what we're going to do is a fantasy football team draft where we try and pick the teams that will finish at higher or better standings. So basically at the end we can add up where everyone ends in the season. So if you get first, you're 1 point, sixth, it's 6. And then whoever has the lowest score, because that'll have the lower overall standing, has the best team.
Sounds good to me. Yeah, sure does.
All right.
And so we have to decide who gets the first pick. I have a quarter in my hand right now. The back of it is for the state of Maryland. For good luck, I guess. Cam, call it in the air. Heads or tails?
Am I just supposed to trust you? Because I can't see this.
You don't trust me?
There's a lot riding on this, Frankie. You have a lot of incentive to lie.
I could pick if you'd like instead.
I'll go with, give me that Maryland tails.
And it is heads. I can take a picture if you'd like.
No, it's fine.
So I will get the first pick. You will get the second pick, and we'll just go back and forth like that.
All right.
Whew. The smart money says to just go with the highest scoring team, which would be you. That would be the smart money. However, you have lost 3 games this season, showing the fluctuatingness of this. You do have more points scored against you than Dylan by over 100, and Levi by about 70. So I think the best pick to go with is I'm going with Cam for my first pick.
Oh, I didn't actually think you would pick me. Oh, God.
I feel like this season might be the season when the meme ends, and you actually go all the way. I mean, the cards are stacked in your favor, and I just feel that this is the smart money to go with.
All right. Well, I'm very conflicted with that analysis, so thank you, Frankie. So I guess now my choices lie between Dylan and Levi. And
You could pick me,
oh boy, could I? I'm trying to win this, Frankie. So I guess what I'm gonna look at is who do the Vikings play in championship weeks? 'Cause that's really all that matters for Dylan's team. They got Seattle, Miami, and Detroit. Detroit's gonna lock him down in that championship week for sure. So I'm going with my boy Levi, who's been super annoying recently.
Yeah, my decision was definitely between you and Levi. Next best is going to be Dylan. I'm just going to take Dylan, not even a deliberation there. Back to you.
All right. So now that I'd say the studs of the league have been taken, I'm looking to the alphas for my next pick. And it's really, honestly, all three of them I could see making a run at the championship game. But I'm going to go with Jake Logan.
Jake Logan. Interesting.
Yeah, possibly an upset pick there, but I trust him.
Yeah, that's yeah, he's got to make playoffs first, but he can do it. That's a close one there. I feel like the next pick for me, I could go the direction of Justin. I feel like the pick here is either Justin or Devin, probably. I guess Tyler in there as well. Just because of the better record, I'm gonna go with Devin as my next pick.
All right, it's definitely a pretty safe pick you got there.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking here of, because we've got basically all the teams that are currently slated to make playoffs besides, whoever wins studs and stoners.
Uh-huh.
So I'm thinking of who's going to get the best final position in the consolation bracket if they make it in there. Just keep my overall standings pretty high. So I got to go with my boy Justin, who's, destined to win that consolation championship.
Yeah, it's a solid pick here. Now I'm conflicted because I have to choose between myself and Tyler Walker.
I'm actually really interested to see
I'm gonna
how
believe in
low you let yourself fall in this.
No, I'm believing in myself. I'm getting both podcast hosts in my draft. I'm taking myself. You can have Tyler. I'm just like I've seen how teams perform when they go against Tyler, and I just feel like he's just destined to get knocked down.
That's fair, honestly, but he's on my team now, so it's back to you again.
Back to me. So we got left? We have JP, Lassie, Logan, and Greg. That's all that's left. I'm gonna go Lassie, just because he might be the sleeper pick here to actually outrank both myself and Tyler, because he could still win the division. So I'm definitely going to go Lassie.
All right. We've definitely reached the point where I'm just trying to not pick the overall loser here. And there's not a lot of good options. It's just you, JP, Logan, and Greg. Sorry, not you. JP, Logan, and
I was
Greg.
thinking a while ago.
Yeah, high pick. I should have known. So I guess I'm going to go with JP because he's got the least bad roster, in my opinion.
And I will take the boom of Tyler Boyd and Leonard Fournette over whatever Logan has going on in his team, and I'll take Greg.
All right, Logan. Don't let me down, man. All right, so just to run those back real quick, your team that you ended up with was me, Dylan, Devin, you, Lassie, and Greg.
That's a solid squad.
Yeah, and I got myself Levi, Jake Logan, Justin, Tyler, JP, and Logan. Looking over this, honestly, I feel like you have a better team.
Yeah, I'm very confident in my team. I look at this and I go, I have, I think I probably have the two teams who make the championship, and I think if Lassie doesn't make playoffs, he could very much win consolation. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. Well, we'll keep track of this and go back to it at the end of the season.
Yes. Alrighty. So now let's get into talking about this upcoming week's matchups. We'll start, of course, as always, with our matchup of the week. Even though I feel like maybe in my heart that my matchup should be the matchup of the week, because it could be for the fate of the Studs and Stoners, the most hotly contested competitive division in the history of fantasy football. I will step down and say that we have to go with Dylan versus Levi, the two best teams in the league record-wise. Dylan looking to bounce back after his first loss, and Levi looking to capitalize on that loss and take control of the Rotlack division and secure that first round bye.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy match. Currently, they're projected for within 3 points of each other, which, I mean, as we all know, projections are super accurate, so it's going to be a nail-biter. Some interesting notes here is that they both are starting Tennessee running backs right now with Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry. That could decide this game.
Yeah, so we get the Vikings versus Chicago. Been a pretty good pass defense recently. See how if Diggs can come off that injury. We'll see what his updates. I mean, says he will play, but rib injuries are the kind of injury where you take one big hit and you're out the rest of the game. Yeah, let's see. It could be even a quarterback versus quarterback matchup. Mahomes. We'll see what happens. This matchup could very easily go down to Monday Night Football. Where we see if Mahomes can go big. But one thing to monitor with that is that Levi does have both the Kansas City kicker, who can capitalize on those extra points and those field goals if they are stopped, and yet Travis Kelce. So Dylan's looking to hopefully Patrick Mahomes throws anywhere but Travis Kelce, who could easily score 2 touchdowns and negate all those points for Mahomes.
Yeah, this is actually a kicker versus kicker matchup. Because we got Greg Zuerlein versus Harrison Butker. Oh boy.
This one's a toughie. I'm not super sure I'm confident in either of them to pull it out. But if I had to pick, I'm probably gonna side with Dylan. But I'm not confident. What do you think?
I feel like if Dylan replaces Dion Lewis with a different running back, if Dalvin Cook, if he wants to start him, or if Chris Carson becomes healthy for the Green Bay game, which it looks like he might be, I got to go with Dylan. But otherwise, I think Levi can pull us out off the strength of his wide receivers.
He definitely can. I'm just, worried about the up and down nature of Mark Ingram's season so far. And I like James Conner, even though he has this, concussion looming. I like him to produce pretty well, and I think he'll produce pretty well in the passing game this week as well. Maybe just to give it a little bit of a shove it to Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, so this is definitely a close one and very much worthy of matchup of the week. And one thing that I try to track every week is that Dylan still has the Tryhard Chalice, even though he lost to Justin. He still owns the Tryhard Chalice. And we're a little unclear here if Levi is really a tryhard. If you ask me, it really seems like Levi pays attention to fantasy about twice a season, once about 3 days before the draft and once around playoff time. And all he decides to do is just complain and whine. So I'm not sure if you can really call him a tryhard. There's allegations of his brother taking control of his team. So Cam and I have an idea. Levi, if you are listening to this right now, I want you to text me and tell me your thoughts on the podcast and your thoughts on this match. And if you don't text me, you're not going to be considered a try hard. That's just how it's going to go.
Yeah, and we need someone to take that chalice away from Dylan. Can't hold on to it all season. So, get to us, Levi.
Yeah. Alrighty. And Cam, before we get into our pick 'em, were there any other matchups you wanted to talk about this week?
So this is the time where everyone's super surprised about me bringing up my upset of the week. But honestly, looking over all the games, I can't think of a single good match that I'd call a solid upset. So if you're not favored right now, I'm sorry, you're losing.
I mean, if I had to pick my own upset of the week, I mean, it's interesting because like I am favored right now to beat Lassie. However, he does have 3 players on bye still on his roster, and he's predicted for 87 points. So I mean, I'm just saying, when he fills those in, he'll be favored. So maybe you want to pick me as the upset of the week. Nudge, nudge, maybe.
Well, fills him in with who? Golden Tate, who's been on his team for 2 weeks now, and Christian Kirk. He's still got Des Bryant on his team, who tore his Achilles a week ago. Lassie, what are you
But like
doing?
Saquon's really good, and Aaron Jones is really good.
Frank, you're on top of your division. Don't have a victim complex.
I'm done fishing for compliments. Alrighty, let's get into our weekly pick 'em, and we'll start off with this matchup. Just give our quick thoughts. Myself versus Lassie. I am picking my heart says myself. My head does say Lassie though, which is maybe a good sign, because usually when I feel confident going in, I lose. So, what do you think? Do you have me this week?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you got to win this. The only thing I'm looking at is Lassie's top 3 players, Drew Brees, Aaron Jones, and Saquon Barkley, could theoretically outscore your entire team if they all live up to what they can do. But I don't see it happening. I see you winning.
Alrighty. Next, we have Greg versus Justin. Justin, highly favored at 84% right now. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers to shut down Leonard Fournette, and I like Baltimore to shut down Tyler Boyd. And I like Matt Ryan to continue to be an average quarterback at best, and I like Justin in this match. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff versus Kansas City, it's going to go off probably. And then Christian McCaffrey is just going to destroy the Detroit Lions. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah. Logan versus JP. We've talked quite a bit about Logan's losing streak, and I don't see it ending anytime soon because, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is a really good week to be a Dak Prescott owner, and I expect big things from him. I expect another good week from David Johnson going against a very beatable Oakland team. And I like Lamar Miller as well. Everything around here, I'm definitely picking JP.
Yeah, I mean, Logan, due to buys, is forced to start Royce Freeman and Naheem Hines as his running backs, going up against David Johnson, who will probably outscore both of them combined. JP's going to win this one.
Yeah. All right. This last one, or like second last one, is a bit more contested in my mind. Jake right now, as I'm looking at it, says he's very favored. Which makes sense because both the Patriots and the Cleveland Browns are on bye, taking out his two most solid running back starters in Chubb and James White. TJ Yeldon, I don't think is going to do a whole lot versus the Steelers. But you never know what Julio can do, and AB can go off any week. Eric Ebron could have another good week. But I think just if we're looking at it realistically, I think Trubisky could do pretty well against the Vikings for Jake. Zeke will feast again, I'm sure. I'm going to take Jake on this one in a must-win game for Tyler, unfortunately.
Honestly, I didn't look at this one as much as I thought I had. I just kind of saw Tyler's buys at running back and kind of wrote him off. But I feel like Tyler has a pretty decent shot of winning this game. Because Jake doesn't have a lot of good matchups either. He's going to need that Tampa Bay offense to get back in gear and help out Mike Evans and O.J. Howard. But even though I got Fitzpatrick, I don't think it's going to happen that well. So I'll go with Tyler.
Yeah, I could definitely see Jake chasing the points with Corey Davis this week and him doing nothing for him instead of maybe starting someone like a Sterling Shepard. So that could be something to watch as well. So yeah, it could very much could go either way. Last matchup of the week to go over is Cam versus Devin. Let's go this one quickly. You are quite favored, although he does not have a defense. He is starting.
And
so
his kicker's
far
on bye right now.
Oh, and his kicker's on bye. Yes. Let's see. Alshon versus. Yeah. Okay. Philly
Philly Dilly.
versus New Orleans. I could definitely put up some big numbers there. Todd Gurley versus Kansas City. Yeah, that could be some big numbers for Devin. I mean, you're definitely the favorite in this game just because like you can't not be the favorite with that running back core every week, and Tyreek in prime time. So I'm gonna pick you, but I think it's a bit closer than the odds may say.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be scared of on Devin's team right now. Mainly his Eagles against New Orleans and his Rams against Kansas City.
Yeah.
But he's got Detroit Lions against Carolina. Don't think that's going to go well. Lions offense has been inept the last couple weeks. So if you keep starting them, I'm actually going to be happy. Because if they do good, then the Lions are probably doing good. So yay, I guess. But yeah, I think I'll win this. But it's definitely coming down to Monday night. My God.
Yeah, that's the duality of being a fan of an NFL team and then fantasy. So like, the way myself, a lot of people do it is they offset that just by trying to, secure as many assets from your favorite team as possible. And sometimes that bites you in the butt, like it did for me with Le'Veon. Anyways.
Yeah, you just got to do what Devin did and bandwagon on all the teams with good offenses like the Rams and the Eagles, and then you can pick them up and say he's a fan of them.
And then when a team is bad, like the Bucks, you just drop them.
Yeah, and the Seahawks.
So easy.
We never talk about Devin being their fans anymore. Bandwagon.
I mean, everyone who lives in Portland is kind of a Seahawks fan. I guess I never really thought about it, but yeah. That's true. Alrighty, so that was our pick'em. And now, as the show has progressed, there have been more mailbag questions have appeared. So we have a slightly more full mailbag. So we'll start off with the first question here, written in by my fellow podcast host, Cam. He writes in, rank the division leaders in order of how likely they are to retain leadership. We've talked about this quite a bit the last 3 or maybe more weeks now of how up for grabs a lot of these divisions are shaking out, especially the alphas, which we did not, see early on in the season, but it's very much up for grabs. Studs and Stoners obviously up for grabs, and then we'll see, Levi versus Dylan this week will decide the fate of Rotlack most likely. So the leaders as of today, as of recording, Dylan, the leader of Rotlack, myself, the leader of Studs and Stoners, and Cam, the leader of the Alphas. So as most secure, I am going to put. It's kind of tough, but I'm going to put yourself. I'm going to put you at number 1, most likely to retain leadership. I'm going to put Dylan at number 2 and myself at number 3. And I don't think it's that far, the distance between most likely and least likely to retain is that far away. Especially now that we have this our new scheduling system with division play. Dylan, if he wins this week, could very much secure it. I'm putting you at number 1 because I feel like you're more favored to win this week's matchup than Dylan is against this week's matchup. I think we could very much decide it. And like I said earlier, it's just, the smart money is just to assume that you're going to be, one of the top, 2 or 3 scorers every week. So the smart money is just to bet on Cam. And then, Dylan, he, very much could lose this week and not lose his spot. But I think he will, probably win. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty close. And then if he does win this week, it will, he's good going forward. For me, I can definitely see myself losing this week. And if I do, the division is completely up for grabs. So yeah, that's kind of what I have it as. What do you have it as?
All right, this might be a little spicy of a take, but I think you are the safest division leader right now.
That's what I'm saying. It's not that big of a difference between first and most likely and least likely.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because, right now, you're playing Lassie, who we talked about has a lot of buys going on. So I think you can probably get the win there. And then if you maintain a 1-game lead against the rest of your division, I think it's, possible, if not likely, that every Studs and Stoners will lose both games in week 13.
Mm-hmm.
And that would just mean that there's no way that anyone would catch up to the lead you have right now. So like it's not as much your team as it is just I think it's possible that the win lead you have right now just will never disappear.
Actually, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because especially if I do win this week, yeah, actually, I'm coming more to your side because if I do win this week, I think I am more likely to retain my leadership. If you compare myself to like Dylan, who like could still lose some games in like week 13 or whatever, and then have Levi take it from him last minute. Yeah, so if I do win this week, and then even if I lose to say Logan in the next week, I'll still have he'll only be at probably 3 wins at that point, and I'll be at 5. So that means he would need to win both of his week 13 matchups. Not likely, because and then he would have to he beat me by the head-to-head tiebreaker. But if I do win this week, it is pretty much guaranteed I do make playoffs. So I definitely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and then after that, I'm honestly not sure. I feel like Dylan is the next safest because Levi still needs to play Justin in the rest of the division games, whereas and Dylan just plays Greg, which is basically penciled in for a win. And then it wouldn't surprise me if both of them won both their Week 13 games. Whereas for me, I still play Devin and Jake Logan, who are both sitting at 1 game behind me. So if either of them are able to pull off a win there, then I could easily just lose my lead right there.
Yeah. It's funny that the two of us put ourselves at the least likely to retain. Just the nerves are there.
Yeah, they are. That's for sure.
Alrighty, let's go on to our next question here. Also written in by Cam Van Sant, and he writes in ideal league trophy. It's something I haven't thought about in quite some time, just because a lot of other things in my mind. But ideal league trophy, we talked about this quite a bit last season, and no one ever ended up actually buying anything because it's hard enough to get your people to actually pay a buy-in, let alone chip in for a trophy. But my ideal trophy is definitely a professional wrestling style belt, championship belts that someone can just like have for a year, or alternatively some kind of trophy that we can maybe not necessarily engrave the names of the winners onto, but it's some kind of like a trophy that like the winner has for the entire year, and like every year they like add something to it, like a string of lights or beads or I don't know, an embarrassing picture of somebody, something like that, something that can be used and, can carry memories with it, along with, for the winner every season. What's your ideal league trophy, Cam?
I like your idea of the thing that you can add stuff onto, but every time I've pictured a league trophy, I've always, like you, pictured just a wrestling championship belt, just something you can wear it to the next draft, just to rub it in everyone's faces.
Yeah.
It's always been my dream to win the league and use the league winnings money on a trophy that I can give to the league, but it's never worked out that way, as I can't stop hearing about. So maybe if the winner this season wants to do that, or if people want to chip in and we can buy a trophy, I think it'd be super hype. Something to think about.
Cam, I'll say this: if I win this season, I'll buy a belt. Does that make you feel better?
Yeah, so much better.
Alrighty, and as we're recording the podcast, we got a question in from Dylan Mikkonen. Thank you for writing into the anyoneButCam@gmail.com address. Appreciate that. And Dylan writes in, if I win the league and no one paid the buy-in, what happens? And well, if you'll notice at the pinned post on the Sleeper chat, which important, which I guess I'm now realizing has been unpinned. Thank you to whoever keeps doing that. My biggest complaint with Sleeper, I know a lot of people have complaints. My biggest complaint with Sleeper is I don't have like admin chat privileges. I just wish I could control it a bit better. But in the pinned post, which is all the information that you could possibly need about our league, there is a buy-in wall of shame. And about half the league is already paid. I haven't talked about it in a couple weeks because it annoys me to talk about it. But as we get closer and closer to the end of the season, as we're getting there now, I will start like actually hounding people to pay me. Especially considering you cheap, people decided to vote again on the buy-in and reduce it to $20, from $20 to $10, which I obliged with against my better judgment. But Dylan, if you win, you'll get paid, but you're not going to win, so don't worry about it. Even though I might have drafted you, we might have drafted you very high on our draft teams, but whatever.
I don't get how people could like justify to themselves at this point of not paying the buy-in. Like, I'm sure you've gotten $10 worth of entertainment from just the chaos happening throughout the league. It's not that much money, and just please come on.
I mean, if anything, I feel like I should be getting a cut, like a commissioner's cut, or I get a little bit of something for myself too, just because of the amount of work and stress that has been put onto me. But it's this is just an idea for next season, maybe.
You chose that life. Me and Dylan never asked for any cuts.
No. I was elected that life. I did not choose.
You chose to run for it.
But the people chose me
over nothing else.
A choice is a choice, even if there's no alternative or something. I don't know. Let's just end the podcast.
It's been a good one.
Thank you all once again for listening to another episode of the Anyone But Cam Fantasy Football Podcast. I have been Frankie.
I am Cam.
Good luck to all of you on your matchup this week, except for Lassie.
And for Devin, who's about to get kicked out of playoffs.
And we'll get you all next week with another episode as we continue our march towards playoffs and to fantasy supremacy. We'll catch you all next time. Goodbye.
Peace.